It's 9:16 on a Monday morning. It's the morning show with Jeff and Will, and it's not just any Monday morning. It's the second to last Monday morning of 2022, and joining us, as she always does on every other Monday morning, it's Tina Traster of the Rockland County Business Journal. Good morning, Tina.
Good morning. Did you mean every Monday morning or every other Monday morning? Oh, I see. Every other Monday morning.
Besides this Monday morning, yeah.
I get it. How is everybody today?
We're doing well.
I'm more confused than I ever was before, but go ahead.
You've broken Jeff's brain.
I think I've broken it, yeah.
Don't leave us, Jeff. We need you for this one.
Yeah, I tried that once earlier this year. It wasn't fun, so yeah, I'll stick around for a while.
Yeah.
So I thought that we would talk about, it's the year end, and don't humans just kind of like look back before we look forward? We take stock, what happened, we try to make sense a little bit of the year before we move forward. I think that's about what we do this time of the year, no?
We try, but I don't think it ever works.
Oh, goodness gracious.
We do that, but does it really teach us anything going forward? I don't know.
I think let's
It's a worthy exercise, no doubt.
So let's do this exercise.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Well, I've done it for you because
even better.
Because today's story is a year-end musing piece. It's an essay. I usually take the liberty at the year-end to do a piece like this, where I just do some thinking or exploring. And
Is it set to the stanza of "'Twas the night before Christmas"?
I think so.
Okay, very good. We may proceed.
There you go.
Thanks very
Jeff,
much.
you needed that. Yeah. You needed that.
Thank you, Santa.
You're welcome.
So we call this "Focal Points Create a Ripple Effect of Good Living and Economic Prosperity." And then the subhead is, "Let's take our diamonds in the rough and give them a coat of polish." What this essay is about is essentially, we've come to the end of the year, and I'm out there at the Christmas parties, and people say, "What's happening with this? What's happening with that?" Because they think I know. So some thoughts that we're pondering as we close out the year are, will the Regal Cinema remain open? We hope so. We know that Simon Property Groups and Cineworld is locked in negotiation right now, and hopefully that's going to work out. We question, is anything ever going to get built on Nyack's waterfront? We'll return to that in a moment. Will Stony Point's Letchworth stand ghostly for time eternal? It kind of seems that way for now. There really is nothing on the horizon there. These are some of the questions that roll around randomly. But let's look at some things. The village of Nyack, for example. The village of Nyack is like the little, what's that? The little engine that could, what's that?
It's the little engine that could.
Yeah, that village just tries and tries, and they've developed a fairly decent food scene, and the retailers, and they've bounced back from the pandemic, and they adapted to the pandemic, and the business owners have all been working much more collaboratively amongst themselves and with government. But the big open question is, there are two black holes in Nyack, and one is the waterfront. It's a diamond in the rough. It's an underutilized place. There's a stalled development, TZ Vista, on Gedney Street down at the river, that just basically remains, a cratered hole where a pair of developers remains just locked in legal battles, and it deprives the village of an ability to get that site developed and really stimulate development down on the waterfront.
It's been that way for years.
About four.
Yeah.
They got their approvals about 4 years ago, and they've been locked in litigation. And in a sense, the village does have one upper hand, and that is that they keep renewing the permits for the development as it is. And so that's the only kind of, cudgel that the village has, while these two developers just keep duking it out in court. but it's not fair to the village, so there's that. And then similarly, the former River Club restaurant, where briefly we thought we were going to see a bar taco, is still vacant and waiting to be reinvented. And, we all know that waterfront development kickstarts prosperity in any community. In Nyack, it's just absolutely stalled, and this, I think, is really too bad. So I would say, come on, Nyack, get your act together on this one and get that waterfront underway. The other thing to be said about Nyack is that the loss of the Helen Hayes Theater also left a void, sort of a cultural crater that, if replaced with some sort of a focal point, that's why we call this focal points, with a cinema or a theater or something that is entertainment focused, that could be a very strategic focal point for the village as well. To the village of Haverstraw, we tip our hats and we say kudos to the ongoing momentum for the 9-acre former chair factory site, which is still which is moving forward with a developer and a consortium of others who are looking at housing, affordable housing, retail, and a hotel down there. And that can be an absolute game changer for the village of Haverstraw. This won't happen overnight, but at least it's in progress, and I think that it stands in contrast to the stalled situation on the Nyack waterfront. Moving down along, we were just talking about the Helen Hayes Theater, and I'm going to shift over to the historic Lafayette Theater in Suffern. Suffern, I don't know what you guys think about it. I think Suffern still needs a leg up. It needs some energy, some buzz, I think, to bring it up to speed. It has such a beautiful physical location. And I think that the Lafayette Theater, we know in communities that a theater, especially a historic theater, can really be a focal point and can really be a way to build, buzz and energy and help the identity of a place, especially depending on what programming goes on in the theater. I don't, we really need more indie films shown. Well, we need indie films. I think the only people who do the indie films are the Rivertown people at the Nyack Center. But the Lafayette Theater is, what I would say is more of a diamond in the rough. So much more could happen there that would stimulate, activity in Suffern. And speaking of cinema,
are you convinced that indie films is that solution, or is there anything else you think they could do there?
I think both. I think there is a demand for indie films, and we have essentially 2 multiplexes here. I know that there's a demand for that, and it also creates a certain kind of audience that attend those kinds of films, and then want a coffee shop or want a certain kind of restaurant. I mean, I always point back to the Jacob Burns in Pleasantville as an entity that transformed the village. Now, that village, yes, it's on the Westchester side. It has the train. It has some other built-in advantages.
Suffern's got a train too. I mean, they've got a fairly decent train. That's
right. Suffern's got a train too, and they've just built some millennial housing there, and Java Love is there. So it can be jump started. But the Lafayette Theater, I think it could just have a much bigger profile than it does, and possibly just do more to be the kind of focal point of that village. We were speaking about the Regal, and fingers crossed that cinema will remain open. But what I want to say about this, and this is some unsolicited advice for the Simon Property Group people, if they're out there and listening, or if anybody wants to let them know. Simon. There's some new retail there. There's still a lot of empty spaces, There's some new retail there. Some of it is promising. I'm going to give a shout out once again to the new artisanal coffee shop Roasted, which we profiled, which replaced the Starbucks, and which I have been to. And I don't drink coffee, but I was with 2 coffee drinkers, and the reviews were excellent, really excellent. The Simon Mall, and here's the advice I'm shouting out to Simon Property Group, it has to be more than a passive mall filled with retail tenants, a cinema, and a gym. The Simon, I think, has the unique advantage of being an outdoor venue, and the pandemic has certainly taught us that we can really enjoy the outdoors in all seasons. And I think that if Simon would undertake robust programming that would include the arts and music and dance and theater and readings and festival and especially food year-round events, that perhaps that mall would not feel as sad and desolate as I always see it whenever I happen to be there. I don't know exactly the situation with that empty Sears building or even the empty I know the whole second floor of Macy's is empty, but I travel around to small towns all the time. It's kind of like a hobby, outside of Rockland County, everywhere from upstate to Connecticut to New Jersey to Bucks County. And the artisanal food, the crafts markets, the wineries, the breweries, the cideries, those are the focal points that draw people, especially younger people, who are looking for that sort of activity. So if Nanuet, if the TOD, if the housing ever gets off the ground, if we ever see that the Simon Mall looking anything, but like a struggling mall, I can envision how that part of Nanuet can be an absolute focal point if one of those large spaces could house a brewery, a winery, a cidery, artisanal food or crafts market, so that it becomes a place where people think, oh, it's the weekend, we're going to go there, we're going to meet up with friends. We just, focal points, to just conclude on this idea, focal points or unique places, are places that we gather and we enrich and we enliven our lives. It's not the same thing as just going to the strip mall. It's places that have, they're like a destination in a sense. And when we combine walkability and craft products and culture and good stewardship of the land, I think that we enhance our county.
I think they got to do 3 things in order to really make that place much more standout than it is, which I like already, by the way, but 3 things would help it. 1, if they close off that center road that goes in between all the shops and make that walkable path and park kind of path, that I think would ease the attraction to some of the things you were describing. You make like a Shakespeare in the Park kind of experience instead of having traffic go through the center, which is what I thought the original plans were. 2, if they take the empty Sears portion and everything else, and they make office space and housing available in that, I think you'd find a tremendous appeal to that. And 3, if you connect the train station and the bus stop up in Spring Valley by the marketplace by a monorail of some kind, and make it easy for people to get to where they're going, you've got something unique and different happening over there. Tina, thanks so much for joining us as always. We will talk to you again. We're going to be here on Monday. If you're going to join us too, that would be great.
I'm gonna take Monday off, but I'll see you in 2 Mondays.
Fair enough. We'll see you in 2023 then. Happy New Year and a healthy to you and yours.
Indeed.
Happy holiday, Happy New Year.